से ज़्यादा अमाउंट मेरे को इन्होंने प्रोवाइड की. थैंक यू हरी भाई.
How much? What about money? How much did you get, bro?
120K.
This guy is claiming that he took out $120,000 in loans and lines of credit. So how many people who are leaving are doing this soft bank rob? And what is going to happen to the housing market and the rental market as the population collapses here? So Canada is facing 2 million people that are expected to leave in this immigration reset. So all the consequences of that and more, how many people are going to be pulling their lines of credit, all their loans, their credit cards, all these different things, and then just leaving the country because they're never going to come back. It's certainly a risk, of course, because easy lending has been a theme in Canada, especially targeting immigrants. So let's get into this. Canadians permanently leaving hits the highest level since 1967. Canadian politicians chased immigration so much they have completely missed the surge of citizens leaving. Statistics Canada data shows emigration, the act of a citizen or permanent resident leaving for good, accelerated in Q4 2024. The move was part of a recent trend that saw the highest volume of Canadians fleeing the country since 1967. So think about how this impacts the housing market and the rental market. And we're going to get on to the population growth because that has an even bigger impact than the people that are leaving. But this is surging due to the cost of living, inflation, people being laid off, particularly a lot of the people who obviously moved over have no support networks. So a lot of immigration in and a lot now going out as well, which you tend to see with the economic cycles as well. So Canadian emigration ends year with a 9-year high for Q4. Canadians left the country for good at much faster pace than usual. There were 24,533 immigrants in Q4 2024, up 3% compared to last year. It was the biggest fourth quarter since 2016 and 30% higher than 2019. This definitely escalated faster than the growth of the general population. But we'll get on to something even more interesting regarding this in a second, so stay tuned. So it's important to note that the data is understated. Canada's emigration numbers are dependent on people notifying the country of their permanent departure. If they don't, the assumption is the person went on vacation. Departures generally weren't tracked until this year. This data also resulted in the country overstating its population growth significantly for at least 40 years. So that begins to show you again how it's not just the immigration numbers, the people leaving, all these different numbers that come out of Statistics Canada. You have to really just look at them as a broad gauge because they're not accurate at all when you dig into the CPI or when you dig into the growth figures. You find out that all those figures, okay, they can predict a trend, but what they can't do is tell you exactly what's going on, and then you have to work it out yourself. And this is really interesting because so basically the population size, it's slowed now, the growth rate, to the same rate of growth that was in 2020. So listen to this. The agency said it was the slowest growth rate since the fourth quarter of 2020. Now think about where Canada was during the pandemic and during the fourth quarter of 2020, and think about where it is right now. Obviously, we know as well the rental market was impacted by this, as it always is when it comes to the amount of people that are renting homes or renting apartments. A lot of those people have been immigrants, so a lot of the investors have relied on immigration. It's actually been indirect because a lot of people think, oh, it's the massive amount of people moving over buying homes. Sure, some do buy homes in limited circumstances, but mostly it's actually the rental market, which then impacts the housing market indirectly through the fact people are renting and there's more demand for rentals, prices go up. And basically, Canadian rental market sees coming boom in vacancy rates. So again, this is showing you what's going on with the rental market now. So you can just connect the dots here yourself itself. And it's really that connection between the population growth and the rental market to know that this is just going to continue going south. And this is going to be a bad sign for property investors, landlords, and speculators, which have boomed all over the country. So tenants looking for rental housing in Canada may be encouraged by reports that show national rental rates continue to fall, though some markets are beginning to show price increases amid a mixed bag of economic and market conditions across the country. Average asking rents fell 4.8% nationally to $2,088 in a fifth straight month of declines, according to a report from rentals.ca. And just bear in mind that 4.8% decline, that's pretty steep when you consider inflation is also at 2%. So obviously if your rent's going backward, your costs are still going up, you're completely screwed and fucked as a landlord. Let's face it, these landlords are being completely wiped out. And who has all the credit? Where's all the credit? Where's all the risk? How many properties do these people own? Because most of these landlords own multiple properties, so their exposure to the housing market is massive. Corporations as well and different other entities also own a lot of housing as well. The leverage has been absolutely insane, as we know in Canada. So rentals.ca found the February average was the lowest figure since July 2023, and the decline was the steepest since April 2021. Again, so now you are looking at Q2 of 2021, and we were just talking about the population growth being as bad or good, depending on how you look at it, as in 2020 in Q4. So those aren't far apart at all, and that's not just any coincidence, obviously, that it is that way. I'll leave you to connect the dots on that. And then if you look at places like Alberta, that, you know, people like me were calling out and saying this is a bubble, and people were saying no, it isn't because prices are lower. I mean, come on, prices are lower in Alberta. Like, that's some kind of amazing case for why prices are just going to continue to go up. And you look at Calgary, which was the biggest booming place, rents are down 7% on the year, and we'll get into that in a second because Calgary looks like it's going to be in an absolute disaster. And the slowing growth of Edmonton, which is up 3%. So Edmonton was lagging Calgary, remember that. So, you know, Calgary was lagging everywhere else, like Vancouver and Toronto. So it's very interesting what's going on there. And then they say about the rental stock being up by 10%, right? According to CMHC. And this is just so interesting, guys, because if you actually go into the rental statistics here, RentFaster are obviously the biggest website used for listing rentals in Alberta, and it's up a little bit more than 10%. And if you look at the amount of listings as of March 10th, 2025 in Calgary, you can see 8,760. The year before, 5,474. That's more than a 10% increase. I mean, even I'm not that good at math, and I know that is way more. It's nearly double. So it's just absolutely crazy. And then if you go down here to the rents as well, you can see that the rents are doing what you would think they would do when the massive amount of rental stock and inventory just explodes like that. They're going down. So as of March 10th, 2025, the average rent is $1,958. The year before, it was $2,139. So you're looking at a decline of what? Like over 5% in the rents, and that's just in a year. And again, the costs haven't gone down. They've only gone up. I mean, look at the property tax increases that are on the table for Calgary this year. How on earth are landlords going to pass that on to their tenants when rents are going down? And a lot of these people are going to be in bankruptcy. A lot of these people are going to lose their homes. This is the thing. The gravy train, the immigration bubble, it's imploding. It's all imploding on itself. And the immigration bubble was destined to follow the economy, because you're not going to have loads and loads of people coming when there's no jobs to support those people. Those people just end up on the streets. They end up in the depression, like we've seen over the past 6 to 8 months, and I've been covering on this channel. So very interesting. And then if you take a look at what's happening in Alberta as well, because they have really good charting compared to most of the other provinces here, and they have really good data on this as well compared to most of the other provinces. So I repeat, interprovincial migration has halved, and you can see it's crashing back down right now, so we'll have to continue to monitor that. And then if you go to international migration as well, you can see it's doing the exact same thing here. It's crashing down. So you had this big spike and now it's coming back down. And obviously, here's the thing that a lot of people aren't looking at with this. There was a massive amount of financial leverage that has gone into that spike that you can see there right here. Think about all the mortgages that investors in Canada took out on the back of the rents are just going to go up forever because nothing ever happens, but the bubble will just continue onwards and onwards and onwards. And obviously that didn't happen, did it? The complete opposite is now happening as the economy implodes as well. And I've said this for years as well, that the immigration bubble, it was destined to fail, and it's failing right before our eyes. So anyway, guys, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd highly recommend you check out this video here. And then if you're looking for a VPN and also want to protect your privacy, go to expressvpn.com/marketmania. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.